All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, and we are so close to get into our training camp in 2 weeks. Training camp previews coming next week, so we're going to do kind of a fun episode we like to do every year and take a step back a little bit from the Patriots. Still be some Patriots talk in there, but look at the league as a whole, go through all these divisions, look who's jumping out to us. It's always good to refresh our memory on some of the players that move teams this offseason. It's a good exercise to throw some names out there with some new logos and who will be in new jerseys this year. And maybe get to some award predictions and Super Bowl predictions as well. So that's kind of the show for today here. Barth, do we want to start in the AFC East? Do we want to end in the AFC East?
Let's start in the AFC East. Let's give ourselves a nice soft landing here.
All right. So what you thinking for the AFC East? That's still the Bills division. Do you think the Patriots can make a push there and threaten them, or feeling something special about the Dolphins or the Jets, or where are you kind of at with the AFC East going into this year?
I mean, I still think it's the Bills division, despite their quarterback situation. Yes, that's tongue in cheek. I look at the AFC. It's still the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills, and really that top tier to me is the Ravens alone. Like, they're not losing because of lack of talent. They just are falling apart in big moments. If we're talking talent, it's the Ravens alone, then the Bills and the Chiefs, and then kind of everybody else. But we've looked at this the last few years. The first Aaron Rodgers year, the Jets were the big challenger. Then it was the Dolphins. I think it's the Patriots again. The Jets don't have a quarterback. Their defense is still fine. Their offense is going to be a mess. Aaron Glenn, I don't love the hire for them. I don't think Aaron Glenn's necessarily a bad coach. I don't think that's a good, and I probably would have said this about whoever they hired because it's the Jets, but we ran through this. Was it on this show or Catch 22 that we ran through all the Jets coaching hires in like the last 20 years? Was that here?
It sounds familiar.
So
and they all just stink.
Right. Well, but it's not that they all stink. So going back to Parcells, right? Or really, they had Al Groh for years, like an interim. Herm Edwards, defensive first-time head coach. Eric Mangini, defensive first-time head coach. Rex Ryan, defensive first-time head coach. Todd Bowles, defensive first-time head coach. Adam Gase is the exception, and he might be the worst head coach in the NFL in the last 20 years.
He scared him back right. The other way.
Robert Saleh, defensive first-time head coach, and Aaron Glenn is, say it with me, defensive first-time head coach. So it's just like, try something else, right? And I don't mean it as a shot at Aaron Glenn to say I don't think that Aaron Glenn's going to have success there. I'll believe it when I see it with the Jets. What's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, I think he's a good coach. I think some of those other guys are good coaches, like in theory, and it just didn't work out there. So, and then the Dolphins, they have the most injury-prone quarterback in the league with maybe the worst offensive line in the league. You're going to have Mike McDaniel maybe in desperation mode, which is a scary thought. And they can't win games in the cold, and they can't beat teams over 500. So their record's probably going to look better than they actually are. But I really am not a strong believer in either of those teams. I think on paper, the Patriots are just as good. And that's not just looking at the roster talent. There's a little more to that. But I think the Patriots have just as good a chance to finish in second in this division as anybody. The Dolphins, if Tua gets hurt for an extended period of time, might end up picking top 5. They might be that bad. The Jets defense gives them a baseline, but I just don't know how much they're going to be able to go over that baseline. The Patriots have the highest ceiling of the three. It just comes back to that thing I always talk about that, can they take advantage of bad football? When Miami's making mistakes, can the Patriots capitalize when they play them head-to-head? When the Jets are making mistakes, can the Patriots capitalize when they're playing them head-to-head? That's what's going to come down to. But this is and the Bills took a step back as well. I mean, they're still the best team in the division, and I don't know that the gap, right? The Dolphins were in second place last year. I don't know that the gap between the Bills and the second place team this year is going to be all that smaller. I think everybody outside of the Patriots took a step back collectively, but as a whole, I think this might be one of the weaker seasons for the AFC East.
Yeah, I'm with you with the Jets and the Dolphins, especially the Dolphins, like, okay, they trade Jonnu Smith. What version of Tyreek Hill are we gonna get? With the injuries, he's over 30
Right.
now. Is he like 100% checked in there on the offensive side of the ball? The offensive line isn't great, and then the defense. I know they swapped Jalen Ramsey for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Their starting outside corners, I believe, are like Cam Smith and Storm Duck. They might have one of the worst secondaries or the worst secondary in football this year. So that team feels like a mess in Miami.
And they used their top pick on a defensive tackle. And I like Kenneth Grant. I think Kenneth Grant's a really good player. But as we talked about here with Mason Graham and the Patriots, what kind of impact are you getting in that draft slot with the defensive tackle? There's a cap on that, whereas like an offensive tackle probably would have helped him out a lot more. A corner probably would have helped him out a lot more. So yeah, the thing I feel the most, so if I had to rank what I feel most comfortable about predicting for this division, I honestly think I might feel more comfortable about the Dolphins finishing in fourth than the Bills finishing in first. Those would be a close one too. After that, I'm a little less sure, but the Dolphins might be like really bad. They might be fire Mike McDaniel, fire Chris Greer, total reset. What's Tua's future? That we might come out of this season like this could be their, and it's different because of Tua's contract, but like we went into that 2023 season here kind of still hoping Mac Jones was going to be the guy. And like, yeah, if he can just be good enough and then he can go get him a receiver and we'll go from there. And then obviously we knew by like October that wasn't the case. It's not to compare Tua to Mac, but the situation that he's in isn't quite as bad. There's no Matt Patricia, but it's a pretty cringy situation in Miami.
Yeah. And even if they squeak into the playoffs and like they don't win a playoff game, that's what 4 or 5 years for Mike McDaniel without a playoff win. Like, are they just going to keep running that back? Even, and that's you look at that roster, like things would have to go great for them to just squeak into the playoffs, and then it's going to be an uphill battle to win a playoff.
Just looking at their schedule this year, the Colts finished under 500 last year, right?
Yes.
Okay, the Colts did. The Patriots, actually, I have it right here. The Colts finished under, the Patriots finished under, the Bills finished over. Did the Panthers sneak in, finish over? No, they didn't. The Chargers did, right? Yeah, the Chargers did. The Falcons will be an over 500 team this year. They were 8-9 last year. They'll be an over 500 team. The Ravens, the Bills again, the Commanders are over 500. The Steelers will be over 500 because they always are. The Bengals and the Bucks. So assuming they can't beat teams over 500, which they can't do, that's 7 to 8 losses right there.
Yeah.
And that's not including a potentially improved Patriots team, a potentially improved Panthers team, a potentially improved Falcons team, and then the Patriots again. So it could get, if they can't, and then by the way, we'll throw in at the end, they got to come to New England late. They got to go to Pittsburgh late. They got to go to New York late. Mike McDaniel is like a 200 winning percentage when the temperature is below 40 degrees. So now I think I had already given them a loss for Pittsburgh, but now throw 2 more and now you're at 10 losses.
Yeah. So I would imagine he gets fired if that's how their season goes. So,
he should have been fired last year, but
probably, yeah. So
I could see him having a Marvin Lewis type run where he just kind of hangs around
forever.
Yeah.
Just keeps being aggressively average. But yeah, so I'm with you with the Dolphins. I think the Jets, I like Aaron Glenn and Engstrand together, but you nailed it. Like, it just keeps being the Jets, and I don't like them with Justin Fields because I'm kind of over the whole Justin Fields thing. And you look at their offense, like, okay, they have Breece Hall, they have Braylon Allen in the backfield. They only have Garrett Wilson to throw the football to. Like, it's Garrett Wilson, and they're going to have to rely on Mason Taylor, rookie tight end, a lot to play a big role, and maybe he can be that, Sam Laporta that those coaches had in Detroit, but I don't know who Justin Fields is throwing the football to outside of Garrett Wilson. So the defense is good, but I don't know if they're going to be able to score enough on the offensive side of the ball. So I do think it's still the Bills. You can't go elsewhere from the Bills right now, but I would put the Patriots kind of in that second slot, and then not high on the Dolphins, and depends what version of the Justin Fields the Jets can get. Like, if they can elevate his game a little bit, I could see them being around 500, but if not, they're probably going to be down there kind of in the cellar with the Dolphins there.
Yep.
All right. That is AFC East. Let's go to AFC North. Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, Browns. Browns, who the hell is starting at quarterback there? The Steelers.
My take is all 4 guys on the roster are going to start at least one game this year. That's my take on the Browns.
Honestly see that. Who do you think it's Flacco coming out of the gate there?
I was saying this to somebody over the weekend. I think their best quarterback right now is Kenny Pickett. And really? I don't mean that as complimentary to Kenny Pickett.
I still think it's probably Flacco.
I don't know. He was really fading down the stretch last year, and that offensive line isn't going to do him any favors. Like, you got to have a little bit of mobility. I think it's Kenny Pickett.
Fair. I just hope at some point we do get Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel, just because I don't need to watch any Kenny Pickett games.
We will get
Pickett Browns games.
We will get Shedeur. We'll probably get Shedeur by the time they're here.
What week is that? Mid-season? Later in the year?
6, 7. I think it's in October, right?
No. So yeah, they could be on Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur at that point in the season, but they'll probably be picking 1, 2, 3 in that area. That it would be a surprise not. Ravens definitely the class of that division. Where are you at with kind of the Bengals and Steelers? Because the Steelers are doing this whole veteran thing. They have brought in all these veterans. Bengals, I'm blanking on the Notre Dame coordinator they brought in to help save their defense, but they have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins all locked in. So do you think the Bengals can kind of right that defensive ship, even though all their pass rushers need new contracts? And can the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, and all these veterans make one last push to get Mike Tomlin back in the playoffs or still in the playoffs?
First off, Browns are week 8, October 26th. They're here. Okay. The Bengals, I mean, it's just health. They have talent. We'll see if they keep Hendrickson, but they have talent on offense. They should have between Myles Murphy, Hendrickson, and I imagine they're going to get Shamar Stewart signed eventually. They have a pass rush. They don't really have a secondary, but they have a pass rush. I mean, they should be a competitive team, especially later in the year. It's another coach I think is probably sneaky on the hot seat. Is Zach Taylor, right?
Yep.
The Steelers, this is the ultimate test because Mike Tomlin will finish 500. It's what he does. He never finishes under. But Aaron Rodgers is liable to check out at any minute. I sneaky like the Will Howard pick. I don't know that he's a long-term answer at starter. Can he be a solid backup, decent bridge quarterback? And that kind of might be what the Steelers need because they're not going to, if they start the season slow, they're not going to start being like, all right, we got to lose for the pick. Tomlin's not going to do that. So can Will Howard win them a couple of games? Maybe they'll be 8-9, 9-8, something like that. Because they have a lot of talent. They just don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
So
do you think back to Cleveland, because you mentioned Zach Taylor could be on the hot seat. Where do you think Kevin Stefanski kind of fits right now? Because they went 3-14 last year, but it was such a mess with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. And now they just have all of these quarterbacks. If it goes that badly again, do you think they could move on from Stefanski? That's just a name. I don't know where he kind of stands with Cleveland right now, because he's won coach of the years. He's got them to the playoffs, but the quarterback situation is such a mess. So would they hold that against him?
Did he win 2?
He might have. Yeah, I think he did.
That's ridiculous. I'm trying to find where. So they haven't made the playoff. They haven't won a playoff game since his first year. They've made it just once since, which I guess is how, if you get the Browns to the playoffs, you win coach of the year.
Pretty
much.
He
did 2020 and 2023, but the success in between really isn't there. I also wonder if he leaves, because based on some of the reporting, ownership really started to meddle this offseason more than they have in the past. We know that the analytics staff, they don't even meddle, honestly. They're more in charge. Stefanski answers to them, not the other way around, based on some reporting we've gotten on how the Browns operate. He's 2-time coach of the year. If he were to leave, you have to imagine he'd be the number one guy in the cycle, right? Who else is going to be available? I would say Bill Belichick, but he didn't have any offers last time. So does he leave and just say, I don't need this? There's no path forward here. You're meddling too much. We have no reasonable short-term path to success. I'm out. If I'm Stefanski, I'm looking to leave.
Yeah. Wouldn't blame him unless they get the first pick, right? And there's a quarterback that he loves.
But he has to know that he's going to get to take that quarterback, right?
Exactly.
Or, let's say both AFC North coaches go. Does he look at Joe Burrow over there in Cincinnati and see a better situation?
Yeah, I think he would take Joe Burrow over any first overall pick at this point, especially with those receivers and Chase Brown there. So his future it's interesting because, again, he has won 2 Coach of the Years. And so that'll be interesting to see where that kind of falls if they have another disaster season, which seems like they're trending to with that quarterback situation. Yeah. But you're still high on the Ravens to clean this division.
They just got to figure it out between the years. They are the most talented team in the AFC. I think the addition of Derrick Henry is still brilliant. They've made some other wide receiver moves this offseason. They just, whatever it is, they got to be able to not turn the ball over in January. So it's done them in every time. They just got to handle their business in January.
Yep. Especially if Jair can be healthy, that secondary is probably the best in the league, right? Nate Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, Jair Alexander, like that secondary is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, you're
best
right.
Quarterback in the league, one of the best offensive lines in the league, one of the best pass rushes in the league, best secondary in the league. Like, there's no excuse.
All there. Yeah. It's all there. All right. Down south, Titans, Jags, Texans, Colts. I would clear-cut pick the Texans to win this division. I'm a fan of Nick Caley. I think he's going to help get C.J. Stroud back on track. I know Tank Dell's gone, so one of either Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel, who I both liked in the draft, one of them are going to have to step up. They got Christian Kirk. The one thing, though, that gives me some pause with the Texans is they, just decimated their offensive line this offseason, and they traded Laramie Tunsil. Barth, right now on the Texans depth chart who their starting center is?
No.
Jake Andrews.
Wow.
Old pal Jake Andrews. So Titus Howard's at right guard. He's good. Blake Fisher is a name we talked about in the draft a few years ago at right tackle. They have Trent Brown. So I don't know. They have in Cam Robinson, Trent Brown, Blake Fisher are their tackles. They did draft Ariante Urstery. So there's just a lot of question marks at the tackle spot. Jake Andrews is their starting center. So I like the Texans. I like Nick Caley. I think he'll get that offense looking good, but it's just the offensive line that is just giving me some pause down there in Houston.
Yeah, I give it to him by default. I worry about the step back C.J. Stroud took last year, but the Colts, I mean, it might be Daniel Jones, right? Or Anthony Richardson, who has struggled. Jacksonville, I just still think that the pieces aren't all there. In Tennessee, I like Cam Ward, but I don't think that they're where the Commanders were last year, right? They're still a couple of years away. That's going to be a bit of a slower build. So I give it to the Texans by default. Could it be an 8-9, 9-8 division winner? I'm not ruling it out.
Definitely. Yeah, the Colts, I mean, yikes, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones. If that doesn't go well, I mean, that's probably Chris Ballard's job at this point. He's hung on far enough already. Like, you figure his seat could be hot. Their coach probably too. Jacksonville, I am a Liam Cohen guy, so I think that offense could be cooking. With T. Law, Travis Hunter, in addition to Brian Thomas Jr. So I like them, but I would still go Houston by default there. I don't think anyone else is in their tier in that division yet. So Houston in the AFC South, the AFC West. Still the Chiefs division to lose, although, Travis Kelce is getting a little bit older. But Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, Bo Nix, year 2, Geno Smith in Vegas now, Justin Herbert and Harbaugh in year 2 together in LA. Do you think anyone can push for the Chiefs, or are we still just Sharpie the Chiefs in for that division?
No, the Chargers are still that team's going to underperform its talent because of coaching. I think the Broncos are going to take a step back. I don't think last year was real with Bo Nix. Think the Patriots the second year with Mac, and the Raiders are a team that could be picked. Even, I like the Geno Smith addition, but that's a team that could end up winning 5 games. So The Chiefs will take a step back as well. It's kind of the same as the AFC East. What I said about the AFC East, where I still think it's the Bills division. I still think it's the Chiefs division. But I think the Chiefs got worse. I think everybody got worse. And maybe not the Chargers, but the Chargers just have their own issues.
The one thing with the Chiefs, though, I mean, what was their record? I had it somewhere. I was trying to find it, but I can't right now. Right here. They were 11-0 in one-score games last year. Like, they can't keep getting away with that, can they? And they probably can because they're the Chiefs.
They probably will.
But, like, 11-0 in one-score games is crazy. So, I don't know. Maybe they come back down a little bit, but I would still put them ahead of everyone. I do like the Chargers. That offense, Adam and Hampton and Trey Harris to Herbert and Ladd McConkey, that offensive line, like, I think the Chargers can make a push. I'm with you with Denver. I'm not the biggest Bo lever in Bo Nix. I could see a kind of year 2 regression there. And then Vegas, I like the offense. Add Geno. I like Geno Smith. You put Brock Bowers back, Jacoby Myers, Jack Besh, add Ashton Genty. Like, I think it's a good offense, but the defense, probably a lot left to be desired outside of Max Crosby there in Vegas. So I'm going Chiefs and Chargers at the top of that division. And unless the Chiefs like completely crater in those one-score games, I would still probably you can't pick against Kansas City with the recent track record of what they've done the past few years.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right. Well, that is AFC talk, going through those divisions. Before we jump over to the NFC, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. And do you guys know ball? Because the sports world is slowing down a bit, but summer baseball is in full force. Women's basketball, the action never stops, and we will soon have football to put into our Prize Picks lineup. The best place to cash in on your favorite sport, to pick more or less on players' stats this summer, like hits, home runs, strikeouts, and more, for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today, and even take advantage of weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday projections can be discounted from 15 to 25%. The bats are hot in Boston, Fenway Park. The Red Sox are hitting finally, and I'm going to keep rolling with Roman Anthony in my lineup, more than half a hit. Put that in. You could add that with Jaron Duran, more than half a hit. He's been red hot, boosting that trade value for Craig Breslow. You could even throw a pitcher in there, Lucas Giolito, more than strikeouts. He has been red hot. Crochet, innings, strikeouts, anything you want. Create that Red Sox lineup over on Prize Picks. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, all over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. We're ready to make some more of our six-time multiplier football lineups. We missed those over on Prize Picks. All right, let's jump over to the NFC. We'll start in the NFC East. Defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. They lost some pieces. Seems like they have some internal replacements. Dak Prescott healthy for now. And Joe Milton in Dallas, I could say. Year 2 of Jaden Daniels in Washington. And then that mystery New York Giants quarterback depth chart with Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson, and Jameis Winston that has to save Brian Daboll and Joe Shane's job in New York. So Philly still, or do you think they maybe take a little step back in year 2 Jaden Daniels? He takes a step back, or he wins the division? What you thinking in the NFC East?
I still think it's Philly. The Commanders will be good again. I don't know that they're quite as good as the Eagles. Daniels, you have to take a pretty significant leap, but those will be the 2 best teams in the division. Dallas I think they'll be what they were last year. They'll be around 500. There's just a lot of questions. Schottenheimer doesn't he feel like a bridge head coach kind of?
Yeah.
And then I'm not a big believer in Jackson Dart at all. So I think the Giants could be really bad again. I think they could end up picking another quarterback again next year. A new coach comes in, doesn't see it with Dart, looks to flip him, and Jackson Dart becomes a one and done in New York.
Yeah, I could see that, especially if it's a new coach in GM. You would assume picking their own guys, but I still do like Philly. I know they lost a ton of pieces on that defense. The offense is pretty much back outside of Mekhi Becton. The defense, they lost some guys, but they drafted Jahad Campbell. They have like a Ojoma on the defensive line to replace Milton Williams. So they have a lot of internal replacements. So they probably won't be missing a beat there. The one thing with Washington, I like Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to have a really good second year. They upgraded his tackles with Tunsil and Josh Connerly. They just don't have a pass rush. Like, their best pass rusher, on the edge, like, it's probably Frankie Louvu, and he's an off-ball linebacker. Like, their edges are Dietrich Wise and Dorrance Armstrong. Like, so they didn't go get that edge rusher. Maybe they make a play for Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt, which doesn't seem likely because they have to pay Terry McLaurin first. But that their pass rush still scares me a little bit. So that's the one thing with Washington. Maybe that's more of a problem that comes up late in the year in the playoffs for them, because I think their offense can probably carry them throughout the year. They still have, Sanders still and some pieces in the secondary, a full year of Marshawn Lattimore if he can stay healthy. So that's just my one kind of concern with Washington there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, jump to the NFC North. Lions without Ben Johnson, the Dan Campbell show, both coordinators out. Vikings turn this thing over to JJ McCarthy. Packers, pretty much the same roster. And then Ben Johnson in Chicago, big year 2 for Caleb Williams. One of the more competitive divisions last year. Do you see that the same way this year? 3 playoff teams potentially? Or is this still just the Lions division to lose even without both their coordinators?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, is this the best division in football? It might be.
Probably.
You could get 4 playoff. You could get 4 playoff teams out of this division.
Yeah,
I could believe that, because the other divisions of the NFC are kind of top heavy. So, the Lions will be fascinating. They're probably one of the most interesting teams. Dan Campbell, what's the word? One of the more contentious, not contentious. What's the word? Something people argue about. Why can't I think of this?
Controversy.
I guess controversial. Yeah. One of the more controversial coaches in the league. Polarizing. One of the more polarizing coaches in the league. Was he propped up by his assistants? Does his system work? So we'll find out there. The Packers are not going to be spectacular, but they'll be solid. They'll win 9 to 10 games. The Vikings are going to win this division because I can't have nice things, and I'm going to get bled by all the Michigan fans, JJ McCarthy dorks.
To be fair, our big qualifier throughout the whole pre-draft process was if JJ McCarthy lands in Minnesota, he's going to be good because he has Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, but these people don't listen to nuance. So I'm going to have to get bled over that, even though Sam Darnold, who will take a step back in Seattle, if Sam Darnold lights it up in Seattle and JJ McCarthy lights it up in Minnesota, maybe I'll believe it. But, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, that offensive line, Hawkinson, it's going to be pretty easy on him. So Minnesota's going to win, and I'm going to get bled all year, and it's going to be annoying. It's going to piss me off.
I mean, it feels like they could just plug. I mean, they traded for Sam Howell. It feels like they could plug Sam Howell in there and win 10, 11 games.
They probably would. Honestly, they probably would.
So I'm a believer. I like the Vikings. I'm a believer in Kevin O'Connell. I should say that. But I like what they've been cooking there. Are you thinking Ben Johnson is saving Caleb Williams and they, add Luther Burden to Roma Dunze and DJ Moore? Are we going to get this year 2 Caleb breakout?
I think it'll be better. I don't know that it's going to be.
It better be better.
Right. I don't think Ben Johnson is quite as bad as Mike McDaniel, but I think you'll get that sort of thing where the offense will probably look better. Are they going to be a better football team all around? I mean, a little bit, because the offense will be better, but there's problems with the defense. That's just a team that's had a culture problem for years. Does that stuff get fixed? Aesthetically, it will look better. Like I said, they can win 9 games. If a team in that division misses the playoffs, it's going to be them. They could win 7. I wouldn't be surprised. That's kind of the one team you're waiting on. So we'll see. We'll see when it comes to Ben Johnson. Kind of like Dan Campbell, right? So it's the same thing. All the people who gave Ben Johnson the credit in Detroit, it can be a case where they needed each other, right? They could both get worse, and both sides can try to take a victory lap on that. Maybe it's Ben Johnson doesn't have the leadership tangent. Dan Campbell's not the coordinator, guru we think he is, and they just worked well together. I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of the outcome. Kind of like, well, Bill obviously had success without McDaniels, but you get what I'm saying, right? Maybe it's something like that. So we will see. But the offense will be better. I think there'll be big numbers. They might lose a bunch of games 40 to 35. And people will call that a success for Ben Johnson. If you're the offense coordinator, it is. If you're the head coach, you get judged by a different set of rules. And if they're losing a bunch of high-scoring games, he's not having success as a head coach.
Yeah. Dennis Allen should help as a defensive coordinator, but
yeah,
it should at least look functional, I think, in Chicago with those two guys leading the units, and they improved their offensive line, which was a mess, absolute mess last year, as we saw in that Patriots game. So it should definitely look better. And Old Man asks here, do you think the Lions take a step back? Ben was a big reason why they turned it around. Now he's gone. That's the big question. So that'll be interesting to see. I do worry, like, is Aiden Hutchinson and Barnes on the defense, like, do they come back and look like the players that they were? Because this is really it for the Lions. Like, after this season, they got a ton of guys, I think, coming off the books, or that they're going to have to pay and restructure. And so this is kind of the year where they really have to go for this thing and win it, because it's gonna be a lot tougher after these years. So they better hope they can keep that ship rolling with two new coordinators in there. But we'll go down south, NFC South: Falcons, Panthers, Bucks, Saints. I was ready to come on here and say I love the Bucks this year as like maybe a sneaky NFC Championship or Super Bowl contender, and then it comes out yesterday that Tristan Wirfs is going to miss the start of the year because of a knee injury, I believe, which is never good if you're getting forecasted to miss games in July. So that is their franchise left tackle, one of the best left tackles in the league. That could throw a major wrench in some of my plans here, but I do like the Bucs a lot. I think they have a great offensive line if Wirfs is healthy. Baker is a baller. They add Ibuka to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, who I know, Godwin, is he healthy or not? Evans is getting up there in age, but those guys should be productive. And you have Ibuka, Jalen McMillan, even Bucky Irving in the backfield. I like the Bucs a lot, but again, Tristan Wirfs has to be healthy. But interesting stuff outside of that team, like Michael Penix in Atlanta, Bryce Young, big season for him in Carolina. Are we getting Tyler Shuck starts in New Orleans? A lot of questions there. But so kind of like the AFC South, I think, one team is kind of in the clear, and that's Tampa. But some interesting situations, especially with quarterbacks, with some of those other teams to watch this season.
Don't sleep on the Falcons. Don't sleep on Michael Penix. That's all I'll say. It's still the Bucs division to lose, and I think Wirfs is going to be back, right? He's going to miss the beginning of the season, but he's expected to be back.
That's what they said, but
I believe is what it was. We'll see there. Like, yeah, they take a hit without him, but don't sleep on the Falcons. The Panthers, Bryce Young will have another year, and they added some support for him, and I think the Panthers will be better. But I still think it's the Bucs and Falcons at the top of that division. The Panthers are kind of in the middle. The Bucs can win 12, 13 games. The Falcons can get to double digits. I think the Panthers are a team that's probably fighting to be around 500. Saints are a potential first overall pick team. The Saints could be really bad.
Saints, yeah, that could get ugly pretty quick. If it's Rattler and Shuck. Did they bring a veteran in too? I feel like they did.
I don't.
Oh no, it's Jake Haener, right? They just still have Jake Haener sitting around.
Yeah.
So that is another.
And then Hunter Deckers.
I don't even know the word.
Gambling man himself. Hunter Deckers was the quarterback at Iowa State, and he got kicked out because he got caught up in a sports gambling bust.
Good stuff.
And then he was at Iowa Western last year and was just filthy.
What quarterback room would you rather have, Saints or Browns?
I mean, if we're talking, probably the Saints, because at least like those guys know I'm cleaning house after the year. I'm gonna have to have some tough conversations if I'm in the Browns room. The Saints room, those guys all know that they're playing with house money.
Yeah, those are two tough situations. At least like the Giants are a mess, but I don't know. It's some veterans.
Well, the Giants are a mess and used a first round pick.
That is fair. Yeah, the other teams just mid-round. Shuck was a second, mid-second, late second. So and they traded up too for Dart. So that one's interesting. But all right, last NFC division to the west: Seattle, Arizona, the Rams, San Francisco. Is Kyle Shanahan back? Will the Niners stay healthy this year and lead that division? The Rams. Maybe the last year for Matt Stafford. They add Devontae Adams. Seattle kind of revamped things with Sam Darnold. They trade Metcalf. They bring in Cooper Kupp and Marquez Valdez-Scantling in their wide receiver room to play off JSN, and then the Cardinals. What did the Cardinals do this?
Not much yet. They just kind of continue to exist.
Who'd they draft?
They drafted. Didn't they take Jalen Walker?
No, he went to Atlanta, didn't he?
Oh, you're right.
Did they trade back? They might have traded back.
Just the most forgettable team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I search Arizona Cardinals to pull up the roster. The first thing I see is an SI article from today. Is 2025 the year Arizona Cardinals QB Kyler Murray finally puts it all together? It's year 7.
Oh, they got Walter Nolan and Will Johnson.
Not bad.
Not a bad defensive haul.
And Jacoby Brissett. They signed Jacoby Brissett. That's what they did this offseason.
So
yeah, they'll be like a 7-8 win team again, like they always are.
I was gonna say I like their defense, and now I'm remembering they got Walter Nolan and Will Johnson. So I do like their defense, but it's gonna come down to Kyler. Marvin Harrison, year 2, that'll be interesting too, because I know like he didn't blow things out of the water like a lot of people expected him to in year 1. So that will be interesting. But it's probably going to come down to the Rams and 49ers in this division, and probably like whichever one of those teams stays healthiest. So that's where I would look in the NFC West there.
Yeah, I think it's sneaky wide open. The Rams feel like one of those teams that is an older roster that's trying to hang on. Usually those teams aren't great. Seattle's in a transitionary period. The Niners are sneaky in a transitionary period. And then the Cardinals are just perennially 500. So I think you could have all 4 teams win like 7 to 9, 7 to 10 games. It's going to be a really close division. But I don't know that there's a great team out west.
I'd probably still peg the Rams as the favorite there. Just with Matt Stafford. You know, he has Puka, Devontae Adams. The defensive line will be ferocious and a problem. So I'd probably still lean LA. But if San Fran is healthy, and I know someone said 49ers lost a lot of defense, they might be bad. They kind of are in this transition on defense where they drafted like all defense. They got rid of a lot of veterans outside of like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. They're pairing a lot of rookies next to these guys, you know, draft Micah Williams, draft Alfred Collins. So they're putting a lot of youth into that defense around like 2 key veterans, and then they're kind of running back things on offense. The offensive line will be interesting. They lost some pieces on the offensive line. So I'd probably still lean LA out there. But if everything goes well for the 49ers, and I'm still a Kyle Shanahan guy, Barth, I know you aren't, but I could see them.
No, I'm not.
Making the playoffs. I know.
The 3 years later, everybody's willing to join me in the conversation about him maybe being a little bit on the hot seat. Again, he's got, what year was he hired?
17. Was it right after the Super Bowl 51?
Was it? I think you're right. Yeah. So 17, 18, 19, 20. Yes, I'm counting on my fingers. 21, 22, 23, 24. This is year 9. He's got this year and next year to beat the Marv Lewis accusations. That's it. He's Marv Lewis, Marv Levy, if he doesn't get one in the next 2 years.
I remember you had that whole list after they lost the Super Bowl.
I can pull up the list. I've had the list.
You have that saved in your notes app, probably.
I just know if I search Marv Lewis in my text, it comes up because I was sending it to Evan. Here it is. Marv Levy, Marv Lewis, Ted Marchibroda, Jeff Fisher, Dan Reeves, Jason Garrett, Andy Reid in Philly, Dennis Green, Jim Mora, sort of Mike Holmgren, and there's one other one. He was the Vikings coach for years and years and years. There's sort of one more. I forget who it is.
Zimmer? Was it Zimmer?
No, this is like going way back. Felger got mad at me for this.
Too far back.
Because he won he won like one of the last NFL championships before there was the Super Bowl. So he technically he doesn't have a Super Bowl. He didn't have a Super Bowl coaching there for 10 years, but he did have a championship.
Okay.
Or they won. It was the Vikings coach. They made the Super Bowl. They won the NFL championship because when it was the Super Bowl, it was technically played between two teams from different leagues.
That makes sense.
Bud Grant, that's who it was. Bud Grant was the other one.
Okay. Good list. Someone said don't sleep on the Seahawks either. I don't know.
Just fine.
When you go, like, would you rather have Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf, or Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Like, I think you downgraded on offense there. Your offensive line, you draft Gray Zabel, but there's still, I would say, a good amount of question marks. Like, you need Mike McDonald to really cook things up on the defensive side of the football again. And you have to keep Sam Darnold playing at the same level that he was playing in Minnesota. So I think they downgraded on offense. So I'm not that high on the Seahawks, but maybe Mike McDonald can make it work out there in Seattle. So those are your divisions. Run through your divisions. Should we do some awards here, Barth?
Let's do it.
All right. MVP. I got some pressure because I picked Josh Allen last year on here. So,
well, you got bailed out.
Okay, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been Lamar. It was a fake Joel Embiid MVP. I'm picking Lamar. They got to right that wrong.
I kind of want to go. I think my favorite would be Burrow.
Burrow. I almost went Burrow. Burrow's another good pick.
But Baker Mayfield down there is still staring at me just because he could put up some serious numbers in Tampa, if they win that division and put a lot of games. But I'm gonna go with Burrow. I'm gonna go with Burrow for now. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Genty, the clear front runner, although Cam Ward is not too far behind. Those two are the clear favorites. And then Travis Hunter, Amari Hampton, Tyler Shuck, Tet, Travion Henderson, Quinshawn round that top 8 group out. You feeling Travion Henderson, or it's probably just going to be Cam Ward, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
They always want to give it to a quarterback. I Genty maybe because I just think they're going to run the crap out of the ball. If Ward's not good, I think it's a 2-horse race. I don't know that Travis Hunter. He's a tremendous player. If they're really going to try to play him both ways full time, I don't know. I just think that's going to come back to bite them, and we're not going to get him as effective as he can be.
Yeah. Won't make that big. I don't want to say he won't make that big of an impact because he's going to make a big impact, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. Maybe just not that to that level in year one on both sides of the ball if he's going both ways. But speaking of defensive rookie of the year, Travis Hunter is third. Abdul Carter is the clear front runner. Then Jalen Walker, Mike Green, Jahad Campbell, Michael Williams. This one feels a little bit more open if you're not going Abdul Carter, but I would probably still just stick with the favorite in Abdul Carter for now.
Well, even with Carter, like the Giants' pass rush is kind of loaded. Is he going to have the production?
Fair.
I feel like there's a better chance Travis Hunter wins it on defense than offense if he wins one. I think if the Bengals move on from Trey Hendrickson, Shamar Stewart would be in a great spot. I think Mike Green's in a great spot. I actually might go Travis Hunter here.
Okay.
Because I think if it does become clear that he's doing too much, he'll just play defense.
Yeah. Where James Pierce landed in Atlanta, right?
Yeah. That was that stupid trade.
Trade up, yeah. So, yeah, I could see Hunter. Jahad Campbell's up there, who I loved him a lot, but there's just so much talent on that Philly defense. Like, I don't know if they would go Jahad Campbell and what his role is going to be right out of the gate because he's a little banged up right now. They have Zach Baum. Like, I just don't know if he's could make that big of an impact out of the gate. So I would probably stick with Carter or Hunter in that group. Someone said Craig Woodson for Defensive Player of the Year. I don't even sadly see him on Defensive Rookie.
No, I don't even think he's going to have odds.
Unfortunate. But although Jacob Parrish has odds way down there. But no, I've not seen any Craig Woodson, sadly. Well, that was Mike who said that. I didn't even know. He changed his picture. Yeah. That's why, Mike.
Yeah, because he gave up on that podcast.
I'm not used to that picture. What the hell, indeed.
What do you think of Hal Mummy being hired by Centenary College as the OC?
I liked it. Glad he's back.
Good move.
Good
Got to
move.
get Mouse Davis on staff now.
Why not? Right?
Yeah. And June Jones.
Bud Grant. Get him back in the game.
Well, no, Mouse Davis and June Jones are with Hal Mummy are some of the founding fathers of the air raid and the spread.
Yep. Bring them all back.
Yep.
All right, a few more we'll run through. Offensive Player of the Year. Saquon, Jamar Chase, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Bijan, Nico, Jay Jettas, Puka. Any favorites there? Or just one of the quarterbacks, which they usually don't give to the quarterbacks if they win MVP.
Chase is going to have a good chance if Burrow's healthy the full year. If Burrow wins MVP, Chase is probably winning this. If CJ Stroud bounces back, I think there's a good chance Nico Collins is in the conversation here. You can't rule out Justin Jefferson even with JJ McCarthy. So,
yeah, I mean he's too good. I'll go because I'm going Burrow MVP. I'll go Chase Offensive Player of the Year. I'll go with that stack there. But Defensive Player of the Year, Aiden Hutchinson is the favorite. Which back to our Lions conversation, kind of worries me coming off that leg injury. We'll see. But Parsons, Garrett, Watt, Anderson, Will Anderson wrap up the top 5. Jared Verse, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Jalen Carter, Trey Hendrickson still needs a new contract in the top 10. And then we have some corners, Surtain, Mitchell, Hamilton, DeJean, Christian Gonzalez, who was the 83rd or 84th ranked player in the NFL top 100, which was criminally low, I thought, for a top 3 corner. But that's where
for
Christian
an
Gonzalez.
Well, remember, he wasn't even a Pro Bowler.
True.
Which was ridiculous.
Crazy. But I didn't agree with that ranking. But could Gonzo make a depoy push here? I know we've said a lot it's tough with corners, even though Surtain won last year. But do you think Gonzo can make a depoy push, or are you going with one of those pass rushers up top?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a pass rusher. I know corner won it last year, but it's so hard for corner to win it, especially a corner that's not going to be on like a Super Bowl contending team. I think it's probably going to be one of those pass rushers. TJ Watt gets paid. I could see him having a big FU mentality and coming out just going on a tear.
Yeah, I could see that. I'll go Jared Verse. Just fun. I like him. I like watching him as a player. But if you're looking for a Patriot, maybe the best bet is Coach of the Year because Mike Vrabel is the current favorite. Ben Johnson 2nd, Liam Cohn 3rd, Aaron Glenn 4th, Pete Carroll 5, Dave Canales in Carolina 6. Are you taking Vrabel here or someone else catch your eye for Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I think if you take a team that had 4 wins last year, really 3, and you look at where some of these projections are and you get them to 9 wins, that has to be Coach of the Year material. Has to be. So, and honestly, I don't know who technically would be eligible to win GM of the Year, but maybe he should be in the running for that too. If they really get to 10 wins.
Isn't it Executive of the Year? So it'd probably be.
Oh, yeah. So I guess it would be Elliott Wolf. I mean, you go from 4 wins to 10. The Commanders must have swept that last year, right?
I would like to.
Or no, who won Coach of the Year last year? I think O'Connell won it last year. Who won Executive of the Year?
I think it was the Vikings.
There's no way they won Executive. That had to have been.
Or maybe
it was Brad Holmes. All right. Well, the Commanders got snubbed. If Patriots get to double-digit wins, I think Vrabel deserves serious Coach of the Year recognition.
Yeah. It's probably, you look at Patriots, Bears, Jets, and Jaguars there, the 4 new first-time head coaches. Like whichever one of those, or Vrabel's not first-time head coach, but new head coach. Whichever one of those teams just wins the most games. That's probably how that award usually goes. So that's where I'll go. Although Dan Quinn probably should have won last year with that turnaround in Washington. But yeah, I'll go Vrabel. I think that could be a good pick. But we'll wrap up Super Bowl. Barth, we went through all the teams, awards. Do you have a Super Bowl matchup and winner for us this season?
I mean, I want to pick the Ravens. They're probably going to choke, but I'm going to pick them anyway because I do. Lamar's going to get one. He'll break through eventually.
Yeah,
he'll break through eventually. So I'm going to pick the Ravens. And then in the NFC is a lot closer. I don't think the Eagles are getting back. That's just so hard to do. They're still a very good team. That's so hard to do. I don't think the Commanders are quite there. It might be the Vikings.
That would be tough.
Everything but the quarterback tells me it's the Vikings. But they'd be the 2019 Niners. Like, they remind me a lot of that team where great coach, great defense, the offensive personnel is outstanding. All he has to do is not F up. And that's what he did at Michigan. So I'll go Ravens, Vikings.
All right. And winner? Ravens?
I deserve the right to change it. Like, real Super Bowl pick comes before week 1, comes after roster cuts. But as of today, I'll go Ravens, Vikings. Give me the Ravens.
Pre-training.
Derrick Henry, Super Bowl MVP. I think that Lamar has like a big AFC championship, and then it's Derrick Henry carrying them to a Super Bowl.
All right. Well, I picked Burrow to win MVP and Chase to win Offensive Player of the Year. So I'll go Bengals. They bounce back. The Notre Dame defensive coordinator does enough to save their defense. Just the Ravens will probably choke. I don't want to keep picking the Chiefs. So I'm going to go a little different, even though they were the last AFC representatives, and go Bengals. And then NFC, I'm with you. Like, I think the Eagles are still maybe one of the most talented rosters, but just going back to back like that is so difficult. The Commanders, their pass rush scares me. NFC West, question marks with the Rams and Niners. So I'm going to go with that sneaky choice and go, for now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, assuming Tristan Wirfs makes his way back. Bengals, Bucks, Burrow, Baker. I think that would be a really fun Super Bowl. But I'll go Burrow squeaks it out and wins the Super Bowl now. So pre-training camp, Super Bowl prediction, Bengals, Bucks, Burrow wins, caps off a great season for him. So that's what I'll go. Assuming, again, Tristan Wirfs has to be healthy for the Bucks. That's my big qualifier on that one. But there you have it. So anything else around the league?
I think that covers it.
All right. Good stuff there. Always fun to kind of refresh before we get into the grind of training camp, go around and look at everything there. I'm assuming all of our takes and predictions will be right. If it's wrong, it's pre-training camp again, so you can't yell at us. Sorry about that.
Right.
We will wrap this one up here. We want to remind everyone watching on the YouTube, please like and subscribe. You can also subscribe wherever else you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else. Please subscribe. Also on YouTube, turn on those notifications so you do get notified when we are going live, or anyone else, Mike, Taylor, Greg, Mike Giardi, anyone else posting content, when it is going up immediately, and you can watch that. Tons of Patriots content because training camp is right around the corner. So Barth and I will be back next week. We'll have our training camp previews, offense, defense, tons of things to look at and break down before we start and get into camp in 2 weeks. So in the meantime, you can follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his written content there. And you can follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianHines, and head over to patspulpit.com to read our Patriots content there as well. Thanks again for everyone for tuning in today. Have a great weekend, and we will see you guys next week.